Hello, everyone, and welcome to Developing Palates. I am Aaron Loomis, and with me, as always, is Jiunn Liu. How you doing, Jiunn?
Good.
So today we are talking about the Sacra Folium Malus Robusto, and this is a 5-inch by 50 ring gauge, and this comes out of the Races Cubanas factory in Honduras. Wrapper is Criollo 98 Viso Maduro. Binder is Esteli Viso in Honduras Viso. And the filler is Corojo Honduras, Lejero Honduras, and Esteli Lejero. It's blended by Boris Grossman and Matt Airy. And the price point on this cigar is $9.90. And this was just released at the IPCPR trade show this year, so July of 2016. So with that said, let's get into our pre-light experience. So Jiunn, what was your pre-light experience like?
The wrapper was very dark and rustic. It was like a squirrel-like wrapper. Seams tight, veins slightly protruding, but not enough to make it like a dominant thing. I thought that my cigar example had a lot of tobacco in it, so it was pretty stiff, and there wasn't much of a give to it. And the head finish off with a well-applied triple cap. In terms of pre-light aromas, or smell like, and I typically don't get this note, construction paper.
Okay.
And then I got some sweet floral aromas and a little bit of cedar. Nosing the foot, I got some damp earth, dark chocolate, and a slight white pepper spice. And the cold draw gave me some lip-tingling white pepper spice and saltiness and cedar.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah, wrapper was pretty dark brown. There were some significant size veins that were visible. And you could see the smaller veins that were kind of branching off of those larger veins. 3 caps applied really nicely. And the seams were easily visible, but they were smooth. The cigar has 2 bands. It has a large primary band with company name on it, company initials on it. And then there's a red foot band that has the line name of Malice. So it's easy to tell, which cigar it is since the primary band is the same on all their lines. Aroma from the wrapper was like a faint dark wood, and the aroma from the foot was like a sweet dried fruit, kind of like a prune. And prelate draw was like a fainter version of that same prune sweetness that I was getting from the foot aroma. So getting into flavor, first third through final third, kind of take us through what your experience was like.
Yep. So from first draw, I got a huge dominating amount of wood bitterness. And the bitterness was really overpowering. And it was, honestly a little difficult to taste other flavors.
Mm-hmm.
But reaching for other flavors, I got some airy bread creaminess, nuts, and intermittently I got some a little bit of barnyard as well. So through the nose, I got cedar, white pepper, and a little bit of a cream. It was just pretty airy and faint. The finish was that palate layering and caking wood bitterness, followed by oak. In terms of strength and body, within the first third, medium. The second third, it got better on the bitterness. So that mouth engulfing wood bitterness, a little bit, but it was still a core flavor. So aside from that, that same bitter roasted nuts, I got starting to now get some pepper of the white pepper. I got some creamy milk chocolate in place of that airy bread. And then on the retro, cedar, white pepper, and sweet cream. This finish still a dominating wood bitterness and oak. And strength and body was continued to be medium. So moving into the last third, it's pretty much mimicked the second third for me. Still wood bitterness, faint white pepper spice, creamy milk chocolate, and bitter roasted nuts. Through the retro, cedar, white pepper, and sweet cream. Finish still overbearing wood bitterness and oak. Strength and body still light and medium. So overall, it was, one of the main things that I've been talking about is the wood bitterness, and unfortunately, it really kicked him out with it, especially on the first third. Whereas on the second and last third, it let off, and I was able to taste the other flavors a lot more.
Right. Yeah, and
What about
initial
you?
thoughts for me, it brought some like aged wood flavor in the mouth and on the retrohale. Half an inch in, that same aged wood flavor remains. There was no changes at all. But the warmth of the smoke was something that I thought added to the flavor. So kind of was another enhancement there. 3/4 of an inch in, the smoke became a little bit drying, but there was a continuation with that warm aged wood. And interestingly, there was no real transitions until right before the third came to an end, where the retrohale became like a slightly spicy cedar, and the strength in the first third was like slightly below medium. Second third, it continues with that aged woodiness and slightly spicy cedar on the retrohale, and then half an inch in, a little bit of mustiness joined in with the aged wood. The mustiness took over the retrohale, but there was a little bit of that aged wood still in the background. And then 3/4 of an inch in, a little bit of bitterness came in, but it was an enhancement to the profile with the mustiness and the wood there. And then 1.25 inches in, a little bit of char came in and pushed out the mustiness, but there was still a little bit of bitterness present, but it wasn't detracting from the profile at all. And the strength had moved up a little bit to just right at medium. And then final third continues with like a slightly dark profile of charred wood and slight bitterness. And then 1/8 of an inch in, a little bit of earthiness joined in with the charred wood and lessened that bitterness that I was getting. The retrohale consists of like a slightly bitter wood. And then half an inch in, flavor profile became fuller. So just kind of an amped up version of what I was getting before. Charred wood was more intense. The retrohale carried like that higher strength level to it as well. 3/4 of an inch in, the earthiness moved to just kind of on the finish, but the dark charred oak was the primary flavor. An inch in, the char disappeared, and it was just kind of that woodiness as that lone component. But the retrohale still had that musty woodiness to it, and that's pretty much how the cigar finished out for me. And the strength had ramped up in this third to medium full. So getting into performance, burn and draw, what was your experience like?
The burn was really good. I got a really good about 2 hours and 40 minutes of smoking time out of it, which is fantastic. And this was a Robusto, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so really good smoking time. The ash, it was a little flowery, but nothing ever fell on my lap or the floor. 1.5 inch increment ash marks, also very good. Burn was fairly razor sharp, and I never needed to use my lighter for it. Or it filtered. When I was going through the Prelight experience of feeling that abundance of tobacco in that firm pack, it proved to be the culprit of having a tighter draw.
Mm.
So even when I cut to the very bottom of that cap, there was no relief from the tight draw. So it was a subpart to that extent.
Yeah, the burn for me was very good. I mean, it was slightly wavy, but it always stayed in line. First drop, ash dropped at the 2 inch mark, and then the second one was at like 1.5 inches, and then at that point it burned the rest of the way to the nub. So really good ash retention on the cigar, and burned well. The draw was very good through the first half of the cigar, and then it tightened up a little bit more, but didn't really cause any issues with getting a lot of smoke production. So pretty much like after that ash dropped at 2 inches, that's kind of when things tightened up on me, but it wasn't anything drastic. So kind of finished out just kind of at the good level. So overall experience, what were your thoughts on the cigar?
Now that I hear your experience on the cigar, I almost feel like we smoked two different cigars.
Just because you get so much bitterness.
Yeah, and perhaps I got a bum stick.
Right.
We only got one example of this at the show, so one was all I could smoke, so I couldn't truly gauge consistency by myself of smoking multiple cigars.
Mm-hmm.
That wood bitterness really killed it for me, especially on the first third. I mean, when it was so dominantly bitter, it was really hard to taste the other notes, and that really killed it for me. And especially on that finish, it was just it completely engulfed my palate with that bitterness.
Right.
This is our first Sacra Folium of like 5 different releases that they've had, that we've smoked and reviewed. So I'm still interested to see what the other ones taste like. I like to actually revisit this particular cigar down the road, or sooner, if I got the same experience, because definitely you didn't get that overwhelming amount of bitterness that I have.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, the cigar started out kind of as that single flavor through the first 2+ inches. Then it became a little more complex and dark. Body really picked up in that final third. But the way the cigar began, I would have said that it would have been like a great beginner cigar, because the flavor profile and the low strength level. But then as the complexity, the body, and the strength picked up the rest of the way, it might scare a beginner away from that rest of the cigar, and they might set it down at that point. So I think it's definitely something for a more seasoned smoker. But for for a cigar that's just 5 inches, it really did escalate levels through the smoking experience. So it's definitely something that would keep your attention by doing some transitions and things like that. Now, for a more experienced smoker, the first part of it might kind of bore them, but if they kind of stick with it, it might really catch on to their profile. So I would say pick one up, give it a try, see if it matches up with your profile, and see if something that you might be interested in. But it's really going to be kind of up to the smoker to see if they want to give it a try or not. So getting into the scores, you gave it a 4.73 and I gave it a 5.80. How do you think your score matched up with your experience?
No, I would say, given that it's a slightly below average cigar for me. So, combination of having a subpar first third, offset by the remaining of the cigar having an average score, and then also factor in a very good burn, less the tighter draw. It makes sense. But man, I don't think I did the cigar justice. I mean, I tasted what I tasted,
right,
of course, but I need to, like I said, I need to give this another shot, especially knowing that that's not what I tasted doesn't match what you tasted.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's a handmade product. Stuff happens.
Right.
So yeah, but given my experience with this single cigar, sounds right.
Yeah. For me, my score fits. Slightly above average. The flavor through those first 2+ inches, it was just a single note, but I mean, it was still a good flavor. And I thought at that point I was thinking like, the whole cigar was just gonna be that way. So, it might bore some people with that, with that flavor, but it did pick up in complexity and body. So that was a good thing. So, kind of kept my attention. It was doing some changes and things like that. So, it did take me on a journey. So that was, a good experience there. But like I said, with what we experienced, kind of really 2 different experiences. You kind of really have to see what the consistency is like for this cigar to determine, what it's going to really be like if you smoke through a few of them. So I can't really say whether or not, you should kind of, really go out and buy a bunch. I think you really have to, try 1 or 2 to get a feel for it, to see, how it fits your profile. So that'd be kind of my recommendation on that. Any final thoughts from you on this cigar?
I'm still excited to smoke the other 4 that the company came out with. But this one was not the opener.
Right.
But.
Right. All right. Well, that wraps it up for this review recap. If you're just catching this video on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to us there. But also check out the website, developingpalates.com, for the full written review. And be sure to follow us on all the social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google+. And we will catch you all on the next video recap.